Hello and good evening. Hope you guys are enjoying Season 12 of Overwatch 2. We have another set of Reddit questions from OverwatchUniversity that I would like to answer for you. So sit back, listen, and here we go. The most upvoted question of the week was, people keep saying, stop hacking the health packs on Sombra. Why? I keep seeing this advice from really high ranked players, including top 50 Sombra mains, but I just don't understand it. I understand not AFKing on a health pack as Sombra, don't get me wrong, but some Sombra main was doing a VOD review, and when the person he was watching hacked Mega, he was like, you shouldn't really hack health packs, I guess without elaborating, right? But why? It has literally no downside, or am I crazy? P.S. This advice is recent, within 3 months, so it's not from like before the rework, when Sombra used to have her old translocator or anything. I think my initial thought on this question is that it's not wrong to hack health packs. I think the top 50 Sombra VOD review, I'm sure they didn't elaborate, but they're probably saying don't prioritize hacking health packs instead of stop hacking health packs. Like, hacking health packs is fine, but making it a priority means you spend less time getting to the proper position, scouting and getting vital information, right? If you sit there at the beginning of a game and wait and hack a health pack, then you got to spend another 10 seconds to run back into a certain spot that you're supposed to be and, get information and look for people out of position. The thing with Sombra is that there are certain health packs that are very valuable. The first one I can think of is maybe Under the Cave on Route 66 on defense. That one you could probably hack right at the beginning and then have enough time to get back, aggressive into a spot in one of those, like, those broken, what are those, containers or whatever. But like, if you're a Sombra and you're sitting underneath like the gas station health pack right when the match starts and try to hack that one, that's a waste of time. It's really context dependent, but the gist of it is don't prioritize it as much. Sombra in this version of her rework is a lot more of a duelist, she's still an opportunist like she used to be, but she's not like an instant teleport back to a health pack kind of hero. You have to play very aggressive, and any time spent wasting on less valuable health packs will be less uptime for you, pressuring enemies, making them turn around and things like that. So that's probably what they're trying to get at. Is Quickplay supposed to be taken seriously? Hey guys, I just had a game of Overwatch 2 where the tank and DPS threw our matches because me and my other support refused to play Ana and Mercy, and I wanted to know if it's reasonable to do that. No. Since it was quick play, I just played my main, which is KarQ, because why not? And I can switch to Brig or Ana if we need to. However, because it was quick play, I didn't really care about who counters who. I just played whoever I wanted. And to be fair, they had a Mauga, and KarQ was an alright counter, I think. Should I consider my teammates in quick play a lot more? And to be fair, it's a serious question because I've been actually thinking a lot about whether I should start playing this game a bit more seriously. And just to be clear, some people might think I threw that game. However, I was actually just trying. I just refused to switch because I thought KarQ was fine and it was quick play anyways. If it were comp, I would of course have swapped to Ana, Brig, or BAP. Bracket, I can't play Mercy, LOL. No, I would say quick play is serious for a lot of players. Quick play is one of the most popular game modes. I think it's like over 50% of the player base does play it, and some of them do take it very competitively and very seriously. And those are the people who have way too high expectations of other people who don't meet their criteria of how serious they should take it. But to me, quick play is a casual mode, and if you're playing KarQ, because why not, and you're playing with some friends, like, yeah, I would say you're fine. You're not in the wrong here. Competitive is a place where you should probably consider swapping if you're looking for optimal ways to win. But at the end of the day, they took it a bit more serious than you. Don't worry so much about it. Play what you want. It is quick play. It is a casual mode. How do I prove to my friend that it's not always a healing problem? I don't know if this is the right sub for this, so please let me know if it's the right one. I have a friend I duo rank with. We're high plat and low diamond. We both play DPS with me sometimes picking tank. And without fail, almost nearly every match, he has an issue with the healers if it's not a good comp. Like, bracket, not having a Mercy or someone who's more likely to heal bot. He will moan, he will blame a lot of his deaths on lack of healing, does not see the utility on someone like Zen or Lucio or Brig, and in general only thinks about healing. He will also not play tank because he genuinely believes every game he loses is because of a healing diff. He believes he is the better tank than the other tank and only lost because he was not getting healed enough. If possible, I will try to provide game modes where he moans about lack of healing. How do you prove it to your friend? Make him play support. And you queue up tank, and you sit there and you don't use natural cover and soak a gazillion damage and demand resources from them. And let's see how well your friend on support can keep you up, especially if he's tackling a pretty hard composition where they have flankers, like a Tracer always, shooting them from the side as a support. To prove it to your friend, he has to be willing to see the perspective from the support and be willing to understand that the tank role is not always about healing. It's about maximizing utility wherever possible, whether that's dealing damage. Some supports deal a lot of damage and that can apply pressure to the enemy where they can't peek anymore, which means less incoming damage for you as a tank. Or your friend also has to understand natural cover and resource management. He's probably thinking he's a better tank because there are some games where he gets all the gazillion resources in the world and thinks that's the reason why he won. But every game is different. Every player they run into is going to have a different play style. The synergies, the comps are always going to be different, and there's different ways to win the game besides raw healing. He's probably not using natural cover and just soaking a lot of damage, and if he dies, he blames the other person, rather than him not using natural cover and taking advantage of opportunities that come in front of him. So again, he has to play support for you as a tank, and you mimic his play style. Be very aggressive, demand resources, and see how he likes it, if he can keep up. And also tell him that there are some, professional comps that can win games with like Zen Brig or Zen Mercy, even in Overwatch 1 with like Zen Mercy with 2 tanks requiring resources, because tanks have different strategies to win. It's not always about raw healing. It's about taking the right opportunities at the right time, using natural cover, grabbing the health packs when needed. And again, you don't need healing if the enemy team is dead. So if you play a low healing support line like Zenyatta plus Mercy or Brig, you have to 3-2-1 execute the enemy. Don't need to heal anything if they're already dead. So it's never always about healing. He has to see there's more to the game than that. And the only way to open his eye is to put him on the other side. What are your best tips against your main and how to overcome them? Just a fun little activity I thought of, since it's important to know your main hero's strengths and weaknesses. That's a good exercise. All right, let's read what they have to say. So their example is, for me, I would say a good tip against Winston is that you can CC him mid-leap to either boop him away before he lands to avoid his landing burst damage, or stop him from getting to your team entirely. For example, using a sleep dart or Ashe's coach gun before he lands. And the way to overcome that tip would be to use Winston's bubble just a little bit earlier, or landing to block that cooldown so you can land on them without much issue. Against Venture, if they fully charge Burrow, they launch up at a predictable height, in which case you can shoot or CC them to either kill or CC them. To overcome that, Venture can change the charge timing as it changes how high and when they pop out of the ground to potentially play mind games with your foes. A little exercise like that. Hope to see some cool tips against your mains and how to overcome said tips. I main Ana, Bap, Kiri. One of the best tips, a really generic one, is to just pressure them. Shoot them wherever you can, whatever hero you're on, whether you're on a Tracer, whether you're on a Queen and they're really far away and there's nothing else to shoot, just a few bullets into a support. For me, it always feels very threatening because it always threatens myself to either have to nade myself, burn my regen burst early on BAP, or burn my own Suzu if I'm getting pressure applied to me. So that's a great tip to like slow down the tempo and how much a support can upkeep their team. If they're somehow forcing me to blow my cooldowns for myself, it is great value for the other team. One way to overcome that is, again, as a support, I had to use natural cover as best as possible. So when I'm playing Ana, I try to like keep a piece of cover or wall against me when I'm scoped in to minimize the amount of angles they can see me to apply that damage pressures, but where I can still see them, but they can't see me as easily. So I tuck myself into corners, and as I move into these angles, I have to like quick scope or unscope shot once I get there. I use the scope shot as much as I can. For Baptiste, it's utilizing his exo boots to jump up and down to change the angles. Maneuvering up and down will allow me to change angles and allow me to, do what I do, minimizing the amount of oncoming damage and assess the angle at which it's coming from. And then for Kiriko, it's wall climbing, juking them. And yeah, so seriously, the best tip against all the supports is pressure. What is in theory the worst possible team composition you could make? I've been thinking recently on the absolute worst team comps that you could build, regardless of the enemy map or enemy team comp. What's the worst in your opinion? A complete lack of synergy, no sustain, no good ultimate combos, win con must be countered with minimal resources. Here's an example that they came up with. Sombra and Symmetra for damage. Neither DPS wants to play together or does consistent damage. For support, I chose Mercy Lifeweaver. They have no synergy with the DPS and they can't do much for themselves. And finally, Winston for tank, since he only has synergy with Sombra and he can easily be forced away without much punishment. So their idea was Winston, Sombra, Symmetra, Mercy, Lifeweaver. I wouldn't say this is the worst. I feel like I can come up with something worse. This is all just a brain exercise. There's no like real incorrect answer. I feel like Winston, Sombra, like you said, could 3-2-1 in theory and pop somebody. The rest seems okay. In my opinion, this may not be correct, but the first thing I can think of is probably, I agree with Mercy, Sombra, because if you play those two together, you're never incentivized to ever heal or damage the Sombra, especially if she's scouting in full invis, because you just literally have just a beam attached to an invisible hitbox. It's like, hey, there's a Sombra. You basically reveal her. So those two are locked in, anti-synergy. A support that probably doesn't match with Mercy very well is Lucio, because, a lot of people don't like Mercy Lucio because Mercy's usually pocketing a damage hero in the back, and Lucio, while you could like play Brawl and play with your team and you know, you want to go forward with them, part of you doesn't want to hang with the Mercy, so you're kind of stuck playing super aggressive with your tank. So now I'm trying to think of a passive tank that doesn't need the speed utilization from Mercy, Lucio, Sombra. Sigma is pretty he doesn't need to get up close, but he is pretty durable. Who's worse? Maybe Roadhog. Roadhog is pretty self-sufficient, and if you speed him up at a bad time, he can actually mess up his hook. Maybe this is just my bad experience. Sometimes when I get a Lucio on my team, when I'm playing a random Roadhog game, I'm about to go for a hook, but then I didn't realize I'm getting amped speed, and I like move a little more than I anticipated, and I whiff my hook. So Roadhog, Mercy, Lucio, Sombra, maybe like Widowmaker. This is like a one-shot comp. They're not really synergistic. They're just dependent on whether the Hog hits the hook or the Widow gets the shot. If a Mercy is sitting there paired with the Widow, it doesn't really change anything, because if Widow headshots, she headshots and kills most heroes anyway, so the damage boost is pretty much null there. It is nice to res the Widow if she loses the Widow duel, but so Mercy's kind of forced to play back with the Widow, which is kind of like not the best value. And if she plays with Sombra, she reveals her position, so you don't want that. So the Mercy's forced to fly close range with the Hog or the Lucio, but that puts her in a bad spot. So yeah, there's my answer. Roadhog, Lucio, Mercy, Widow, Sombra. What do you guys think? Next, what support should I use against D.Va? I feel like I see way more D.Vas in my game and I'm losing a lot of value on my support role. I usually play Ana or Kiri, but I'm finding it more difficult to get as much value against a good D.Va. Feels like unless we get a beam counter, my team loses. I cannot always rely on my team to counter swap and don't expect them to if they are uncomfortable playing a hero like Zarya. I would like to learn how to play more optimally so I can aid my team against a D.Va that is dominating. I know Brig is pretty good considering her abilities and heals cannot be eaten, and she is anti-dive if my other support is running low heals. I find it a little more difficult to play her though. I know that this is probably on me and just something I have to learn to play around, but I genuinely feel like I get such a low amount of value, so I'd appreciate any advice. I would say, honestly, your answer in Brig in a strict like value to value one-on-one ratio is probably your best option in terms of keeping her away from her like bursting somebody and punishing a bad spot by her flying to somebody. You can pack them, you can boop them away, then you get a little passive healing. If the D.Va dives you, you have armor and you have a shield to mitigate most of that, and you can create some separation with your whip shot as well. And yeah, your role isn't really on Brig to like damage the D.Va, but just annoy her to the point where she has to fly away. There's not really a support that can like non-stop damage the D.Va so much that she has to run from you, because like Ilari's shots are a little too slow. D.Va can flash her matrix and eat it. Moira's suck does like nothing against all her armor. It can beam through the matrix, but it's pretty negligible. And D.Va can always eat all your offensive damage orbs and heal orbs if she's up close, so that kind of sucks. Ana's really rough against her. If she eats your sleeps or nades, you're kind of screwed. Kiri is pretty safe. You can at least escape from her, and you can kind of like preventatively do your best to like keep the person alive. Same with Baptiste, although D.Va can dive the Bap pretty well, especially if he already burned his lamp, but Bap actually has pretty consistent damage. He's not paying attention, but the armor is pretty strong, so maybe not. Lucio, same role as Brig in a way, where yeah, it's less about damaging her and more about booping her away and being annoying and going there to peel and amp the person that she's running into. So yeah, I'd probably say Brig or Lucio if that D.Va is really the reason why you want to swap, but you don't necessarily have to counter swap against the D.Va as a support player. Your role there is less about countering them and more about enabling your team. That's something I try to echo a lot in these videos, is that people think countering always is the crutch and something they should go for versus synergy in their team, right? You have two pathways: synergize really well with your team or counter swap. And I would just encourage people to think about team synergy and enabling them more than just relying on the counter swap crutch. You learn a lot more about the game and your options that way. Is Lifeweaver that bad? Even that bad right now? This was 5 days ago and Lifeweaver just got a big buff for season 12. Let's read what they're saying here. I enjoyed playing Weaver when he first came out. I still enjoy him now, but I let public opinion sway me into accepting him, and Mercy are unplayable even though I saw him basically every game in Masters. I gave him a shot today and I won every game with half the effort I usually put in. The amount of plays and ults you can counter with pedal and pull just just war of attrition my team to victory each time, and his raw DPS on fat tanks is insanely non-negligible. I was able to get full normal value while completely ignoring the sightlines the enemy Widow is controlling, while giving my own Widow new angles, which is a DPS I notably struggle against, and also living more against dive, which is the team archetype I usually have my highest deaths per 10 against. Is this just the end of season matches sample bias, or is he not as bad as everyone says? I guess when keeping your team alive long enough, they are bound to do something good sooner or later. So I'm gonna quote one of the Blizzard devs, is that Lifeweaver statistically doesn't perform that poorly at all. He just doesn't have that like hard carry factor. So he's not bad at like you said, war of attrition and like maintaining your team, but he's hard to find that win condition if your team doesn't have like that doing something good sooner or later. If they don't have that one playmaker, then you're kind of just sitting there and hoping for the best. You can argue that you can go for some very aggressive pedal, pull, grip somebody offensively, play make style, but that's inherently risky. You have to be in voice comms. You have to like work something together with your team if you're gonna coordinate that, and that's not always gonna be the case. So he's a very like neutral 50-50 hero. So I would say maybe less of the season matches. Small sample bias, I agree with that. He's actually not as bad as everyone says, and he just got buffed this season where he now gains passive healing charge the whole time, and he can swap to his weapon more often and swap back and still have his full healing blossom up to full, which is a great buff for him. Pedal platform works a lot better now. A little buggy at some cases right now. I think they're going to fix that, but like he's a lot better. His deaths per 10 are really low because he's actually very hard to kill because of that pedal that crushed like an angle that you're getting jumped at. You have a rejuvenating dash, so he's hard to kill. And it seems like he kind of just synergizes pretty well with your personal playstyle, Mr. Johnny OW2. So I would say if you enjoy Weaver and you're winning games, continue to play him. Don't let public opinion sway you into not playing him. But as you continue to climb in very high ranks, inevitably people may flame and insult you for playing the hero because he doesn't have that it factor, that carry factor that Kiriko's ultimate has, or that ultimate that Baptiste window has that can just like instantly like play make and do something high tempo for your team. Tree of Life is like a pretty high tempo ultimate. It's an instant heal, but then there's a lot of times you have to wait for the oncoming damage to happen before you respond to it. So he's a reactionary hero in a lot of cases versus a proactive hero with, again, Kiriko, Kitsune Rush, Nano Boost, Baptiste Ultimate. Does that make sense? What are your most uncommon ways to die, and how do you prevent this? I'm not talking about dying by overextending and going 1v4. I'm talking about uncommon ways of dying, which two ways often mean certain death for me. Number one, door frames and ledges. Really, this is sometimes the number one reason in some matches where I walk backwards into a room and I get stuck on a door frame or get bursted down. Never found a good way to avoid this. Number two, the most annoying one is I have a gaming mouse with two thumb buttons, one for melee, one for the comm wheel. And when it gets hectic, I hit both buttons at once. And when you hit them at the right time, you get stuck on the wheel. And sometimes I even get out of the gaming window, being stuck on my second monitor. This is my personal number one uncommon reasons when engaging with Doom with all those melee attacks. I rebound the comm now, and if this didn't work, I remove the secondary thumb button. Most uncommon way to die, probably emoting by accident because you're locked in the whole animation the entire time. How do you prevent this? Never bind an emote on your mouse or any key that's close to your like left hand. If you can put it on like number 9 or 0 on your keyboard, you won't accidentally fat finger it. There you go. And honestly, I agree with you with the door frames and ledges. I got stuck on like a garbage can on Circuit Royale and ate an entire Hanzo ultimate. So those are very annoying as well. Last one, Hanzo plus Mercy. Why aren't they as popular as Mercy and Sojourn or Ashe were? So currently, Mercy damage boost does break the 250 HP breakpoint on most characters for Hanzo's headshot, much like Sojourn and Ashe with the 200 HP in the past. But why isn't Hanzo and Mercy as popular? It achieves the same thing that made Sojourn and Ashe so oppressive. On top of that, Hanzo's arrow hitbox is bigger than both of theirs when they were meta. Yeah, but Hanzo is a projectile hero. Sojourn's railgun is a hit scan. Ashe's shot is a hit scan, and it's a breakpoint change for them. Not so much for you, especially in the past. So here, let's think about this, right? Sojourn used to do 195 rail headshot with a Mercy boost. When people used to be 200 HP, it suddenly becomes one shot, and it's a hit scan, so it's reliable. Ashe as well, you boost her shot, and it did over 200 damage with a headshot, because it was like 150, or sorry, how much is Ashe's damage? 75? No, it's more. It's like 85. With Ashe, similarly, it allows her to pretty much almost one-shot them with a headshot, or at least a body shot headshot. So the breakpoints changed with Mercy back then. And Hanzo back then with 200 HP was able to headshot at the time. Now, of course, Sojourn and Ashe are unable to do that. And while Hanzo plus Mercy Boost it's just simply the accuracy of a headshot is just not as reliable. Look at an average Hanzo's headshot accuracy. In fact, look at your Hanzo stats and you tell me what your critical hit accuracy is. I think most people are between 8 to 15% of their shots. 15% is on the high end for their arrows, right? So the reliability is the big one. And yeah. Okay, and that's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.